So you are considering being a mortgage loan officer. I'm going to tell you what you need to do to see if it's something that you can fulfill. My name is Chandra Lake. I am a licensed mortgage loan officer, and I am also a licensed realtor. And so I've been asked the question by some of my fellow realtor colleagues, what do you have to do to become a mortgage loan officer? And also the other question I get asked is it more stressful to be a mortgage loan officer or a realtor? And so first, let me just give you a backstory. I actually started out as a mortgage loan officer, and I started networking. I was out going to open houses, trying to meet realtor partners, because that's where you get a majority of your business. And so one of the things that happened was I was out networking at one of the realtors' open houses, and this gentleman actually was the one that kind of introduced me to the idea of getting started in real estate as well. And so I did that. I did the classes that were required, and then I took the exam and I passed the exam. Now, between the two, I would have to say that being a mortgage loan officer has probably been the most stressful for me. And I think maybe because you have less control over people's finances and their choices, and the underwriter, you have your regulations, you have your guidelines, you have your requirements that you have to operate from. But there are other things that you don't necessarily have control over. So that's just a little bit of spiel. So I want to tell you exactly what you need to do. The first step, if you're considering being a mortgage loan officer. So you have to know that mortgage loan officers are, the licenses are federally regulated by state. And so you have to decide whatever state that you want to be licensed in, that the first thing you're going to do is go to the NMLS, and that's the National Licensing Systems. And I'm going to show you by my screen where you need to go. Service. So NMLS. And it stands for National, Nationwide Licensing System.org. Okay. You're going to go there. And when you see this screen, you're going to go to, you want to go to a state agency, the state agency checklist, because you need to know for your specific state what is required, because each state has a couple of different variations on what they require for you to be for you to get licensed. So you're going to go to your state. I'll just choose Michigan because that's where I started my license and that's where I live. So I'm going to start with Michigan on the map. And then my computer's a little bit slow. Okay. And so for the state licensing requirements for Michigan, you'll see there's a lot of different choices. But what you want is unless you're a broker, and you want a broker's license, which if you're starting out, you can't anyway, because you have to be licensed for at least 2 years. And there are some other requirements as well, but you want to go all the way down to individual licenses, and you want to select Mortgage Loan Originator license, okay? And you are going to get the requirements for a new application. Okay, and it provides a general checklist for you on what you need to do. So who is required? They'll tell you who is required to have a license. Everyone's not required to have a license. For example, sometimes if you work at a retail financial institution, they're the ones that's sponsoring you. So you don't necessarily have to have a license, but don't quote me. Go to this website and check exactly what you need, because this is what I did. Okay, so they give you basically a checklist to follow, and it's step by step. So the first thing that you're going to need to do before you request a license or anything of that nature, you're going to have pre-licensing education. Every state is a little bit different, but they do have a set core of education that every state has, and then each state might have maybe an additional 2 hours of certain state-specific requirements. So I wanted to just give you this because this is the best resource for you to go to see what is required for you to obtain your license. So you're going to do the pre-licensing education. So for Michigan, we had at least 20 hours of NMLS approved pre-licensing education. And then we also had which had to include 2 hours of Michigan specific content. Okay, so once we complete that information, or I'm sorry, that education, and then we would go ahead and we would have to complete the NMLS test. You have to pass the SAFE test in order for you to even apply to get your license. Okay, so those two things are probably the most important thing, probably the thing that people get hung up on the most, because you have to pass that test in order for you to even apply for your license. So once you pass that test, then so some people have two different, pathways that they do. I'm gonna tell you what I did. Okay. So I was kind of proactive. Some people said, well, find a job or a sponsor that would pay for the licensing. Okay. So I tried to do that, but it was like a huge circle, because they wanted you to have experience before you have experience in the mortgage industry before they would want to sponsor you. So, I was like, well, I'm not going to wait to find someone to sponsor me. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Okay. Because you have to, submit your application. You got to get a background check. You also have to have fingerprinting. And they pull your credit report. And so they do, like I said, a federal FBI criminal background check. So I wanted to go ahead and get started. So what I did is I went ahead, applied for everything. And the last thing that was needed is, before they will issue you a license, you have to have a sponsor or an employee. Quote unquote. And so I did all of that. So what I did is, once I completed all those steps, I was on my email. I was emailing every broker in Michigan to see if there was someone that would be willing to sponsor me with no background or no experience in mortgages. And I did find a beautiful company that was able to give me an opportunity to start there. And I knew nothing except for the regulations from the test that were floating in my head. So a lot of the things that you'll learn will be when you obtain experience with a broker, because a lot of the scenarios, every scenario is going to be different. Every client is going to be different. There's no one track client that you'll get. And so you have to be able to apply those guidelines to each scenario. So that's what I did. Some people find a sponsor, or they might be, be blessed enough to find a sponsor that will sponsor and pay for the whole process. But I just went ahead, like I said, I was proactive. I did it myself. If you're considering doing this, you also want to remember that sometimes it takes a little bit of time, unless you're paying for leads. You have to generate leads for yourself. It takes a little bit of time. So I maintained my job that I had to make sure that I had income coming in before I jumped, full head on. And honestly, I still am, generating some additional income, because I like to have options and I don't like to have that pressure of, So anyways, that's just me. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of spiel of where you can go to find out for your specific state what's required. And again, you're going to go to the nationwide licensing system.org, nationwide licensing system.org. And that's where you're going to find the checklist for your state that will tell you exactly what you need to become licensed in your state. Okay, so thank you guys for listening. I hope this was at least helpful for you to get started. It doesn't hurt to have options for income, have multiple streams of income coming in. It's not easy. You're going to have to generate leads. And even if you pay for leads, you're going to have to be able to convert those leads to a client. So that's my spiel for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. Please don't hesitate to send in your questions or comments, and like and share this video and subscribe to my page. Thank you so much. Again, I'm Chandra Lake, licensed mortgage loan officer in Michigan and licensed realtor in Michigan. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great day.